man, just because I know we gonna have some lively conversation. We're seeing right now, and there is a way that privileged white males who used to be president are treated. A lot of everyday people aren't gonna feel sorry for you. You know, for him to be screaming that, you know, he's being treated so unfairly, and it's like, not necessarily.
But to pick you up on that, Charlemagne, that's why I asked you, is it good for America? Have you decided yet who you're going to vote for?
Yeah.
Would you like to share it with me?
I've never been to a Diddy party. Trump was trying to hide things. B. Diddy was trying to hide things too. I think race is a factor in Caitlin Clark. But Piers, you have to admit, whenever you see somebody excelling in a field that race doesn't usually excel in, you know, it is heightened.
He's a media mogul, a best-selling author and star host of The Breakfast Club, self-styled as the most dangerous morning show in the world, and having been on it, I can confirm it is pretty dangerous. In a world of spin and nonsense, Charlemagne the God deals in straight-talking facts, and his new book, Get Honest or Die Lying, is billed as an antidote to small talk from small minds. So once again, Charlemagne the God is uncensored. Charlemagne, great to see you.
Piers, what's up, man? Good to see you again, too, man.
I love an early plug. I love it being bold.
Little shameless self-promotion. You know, got to do that on a big platform like yours.
Well, you know me, I'm all in for shameless self-promotion. What I loved about the book, it said it critiques the prevalence of superficial conversations and advocates for deeper, more meaningful dialogues to address societal divisions and personal unhappiness. Because I totally agree with you. I think social media has made everyone talk and think and debate in sound bites. We've lost that ability to do what I did with you when I came on your brilliant breakfast show in New York. We just had time. You know, we had a 90-minute conversation. We could talk about stuff with nuance, with layers. And it seems that we've lost that ability. People have kind of forgotten how to have longer conversation.
Yeah, not only have we lost that ability, we're putting everything on the same scale. And, you know, when I talk about small talk, I'm saying how we take a lot of these, you know, minor issues and we make them these big macro issues. We take these small things and make them, you know, big things. So when the actual big things come across our desk, or, you know, the big things are up for discussion, we don't even know how to talk about them, if we talk about them at all, because everything is literally on the same scale. So things that are small are held to the same level of, you know, validity as, you know, things that are big.
One thing I was struck by, I watched you do an interview with CNN, I think, a few days ago, and I could see that you were kind of irritated by constantly being kind of, I guess in your eyes, wheeled out as a spokesman for all black people in America because of your great influence from the show and so on. I totally got that. It's like, why should your skin color dictate whether you're booked to do an interview to talk about society or issues or whatever? Tell me a little bit more about how that makes you feel when you feel that way.
Well, you're a good reader of people, you know, because that's exactly how I felt in that moment. Because I'm like, you know, black people are not monolithic. And, you know, when you bring me on a show and ask me what all black people think, I could not tell you. I could only tell you, you know, what I think. And it's a little frustrating, too, because, you know, in America, you know, they keep asking about the black vote in regards to Biden. But when you look at the polls, you know, he's losing the young vote. He's losing the Latino vote. Like, there's a lot of people that are down on Biden right now. So I don't understand why it keeps coming back to a black thing.
I completely agree. And it must be, I mean, I was trying to think what it'd be like if I get booked only to talk about issues about white people.
Yeah, it'd be terrible.
Very quickly, how annoying I would find that. And so I get it. I mean, that isn't going to happen because it doesn't happen to white people that way. But it's an interesting, you know, thing to actually see that you were kind of bristling. I watched it. I thought, yeah, I get that. I get it.
There's a guy here in America, man. His name is Tim Ryan. He's a good dude.
Yeah, I know Tim. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, Tim has this phrase called the exhausted majority.
Yeah.
And he said most people in America are the exhausted majority. So I don't care whether I'm black, I don't care whether I'm white, Democrat, Republican. Most people are just exhausted at what's happening in our political system right now. And I represent one of them.
Well, yeah, and I think you're absolutely not alone. And let's talk, you know, immediately about what happened in the last week. It is, listen, I'm in the UK at the moment. Across the pond, there's a kind of wonderment and shock about what is happening to the great superpower of the world when you have one candidate who can barely string a sentence together, and the other candidate facing all these criminal indictments and actually being convicted now of being a felon. And putting aside the debate about whether that is fair or not fair, and I'll come to that with you, but just the fact that these are the two candidates that America has to choose from in November seems staggering to people.
Yeah, and I represent the 1 in 4 Americans who have unfavorable views about both of them. So it's like, when you see me on a show like The View and I say something like, yo, both of these candidates are trash, I truly mean that. One of them, like has all of these criminal charges. One of them led an attempted coup of this country. One of them said we need to terminate, the Constitution to overthrow the results of an election. That was to overturn the results of an election. That was Donald Trump. And then the other one is just uninspiring. The other one can't even deliver the proper messaging about the things that him and his administration have done. And we spend so much time here in America talking about how.
See, but I don't even like how he just did that. He just called out all these specifics on Trump, but then he just said that just because Biden is uninspiring. No, it's way more than him just being uninspiring, man. Now, what about the border? What about the war? What about the spike on everything financially on people? Don't just I could tell where his view is. I could tell where he's picking at just by that, because he just calls out the stuff Trump did and he didn't call out the Biden side. So I don't like that.
Even though, what about the millions of dollars that his family got, the influence peddling, all of the financial transactions that transpired that shouldn't have even taken place between him and leaders of other countries.
Right.
I mean, that were not legit.
Right. Like
so
he
didn't even mention that.
He just went to all the hard stuff on Trump and just got it light. That's why I'm like, even though you think both candidates are trash, just by how you
that's not the truth,
pick.
But yeah.
No, I'm saying these are his words. Doubt if you're going to be picking Trump. He may not even pick either one. He may be pick somebody in the middle.
How bad Trump is, especially the left media. They talk about how bad Trump is, and they're always on their social media and on their platforms talking about how bad he is, but they're never talking about the things that they say President Biden has done. And then they wonder why people ask those questions. They wonder why people say, well, what has Joe Biden done? What is Kamala Harris doing? We would know if more of y'all would spend more time telling us about them as opposed to just talking, telling us how bad Trump is.
Yeah, that's definitely left media.
I totally agree. Again, because there's a kind of, this Trump derangement syndrome is a real thing. I see it in people where they're so fixated in hating Trump and everything about him and doing it 24/7. They forget that there's a country currently being run by Democrats who are making decisions that are directly impacting on people's lives. I thought it was interesting with dynamic. You mentioned The View. I want to play a clip. This is where effectively the hosts try and bully you to endorse Biden. Take a look.
I've seen y'all do this on The View before. I saw y'all do this to Killer Mike when he was on The View, and Killer Mike literally sat here and said, hey, I supported Keisha Lance Bottoms. I supported Ralph Warnock. I supported John Ossoff, right, in Georgia. And he said, you should support the people that I've supported. You should support the person who the people I've supported are supporting.
Okay.
That's y'all opportunity to say, well, clearly he's talking about President Biden. Why do y'all need us to say this if we don't feel comfortable saying it?
No, it's not that we need you to say it. But I think other folks need to hear.
Burned out.
Because, one of the things I'm sorry, jumped you, I'm sorry. But one of the things that we've been talking about is the fact that getting facts out through the media seems to be very difficult.
I feel like I just spewed some facts.
Yeah.
Yes, but we need you to do it on your show.
Well, the reality is I think both candidates are trash. So but I am going to vote in November, and I'm going to vote my best interest, and I'm going to vote who I think, can preserve democracy. So if I think both candidates are trash and I don't feel like, endorsing one, would you rather me endorse an individual or endorse the fact that, hey, we need to go out here and protect democracy?
What was fascinating, Charlemagne, was their stunned reaction.
What does that mean?
Deal with this. It was a kind of presumption by them that you would vote for Biden. And when you said, actually, I think both candidates are trash, They were so shocked. They didn't know what to say.
Because they didn't like that answer.
A few times,
they didn't like that
answer.
It's
so ridiculously partisan now. You know, I watched Joy Behar reacting to the Trump conviction and saying she actually got a leak, she said, and tittered away. And I was like, wow. What part of you thinks that that is a smart way to deal with what is going on right now? To look like you're so partisan, so overexcited by anything that's damaging to Trump, that you lose all kind of reasonable ability to assess and analyze the big picture about American politics and where the country is.
Yeah, and I don't like the assumption that, you know, just because I don't want to endorse, you know, means I'm not voting. And
right.
You know, it goes back to what I keep saying about the left really does not know how to push narratives in any way, shape, or form. Because
definitely,
you know, I was on CNN this weekend, and I literally was talking about a chapter in my book called "The Language of Politics is Dead," and I give credit to Donald Trump for killing the language of politics. Like, he's made it to where politicians, they don't have to be perfect. They don't always have to say the right thing. And they can actually say what they truly feel if they choose to. You know, Fox News, I was on CNN, Fox News took that clip and their headline was, Charlemagne the God praises Donald Trump for killing the language of politics. That's just them pushing the narrative that they want to push. I didn't praise him.
But in a way, I understand why they did that, because in a way you're kind of praising him. What you're acknowledging is that Trump's appeal, and I don't want to speak for you, you can tell me, but it seems to me what you were saying was Trump's appeal comes from the fact he's a straight talker. You may not like what he's saying, but he sounds authentic, and he doesn't sound like a normal, robotic, pre-planned, pre-rehearsed politician.
Yeah. Biden.
I say it all the time. I said that, you know, somebody like Donald Trump and a lot of conservatives in general, especially the MAGA ones, they are more sincere about their lies than Democrats are about their truth. So you can hear a conservative say something that you know is not true, but it'll sound sincere. And you can hear a Democrat say something that possibly is true, but they don't sound like, you know, they don't sound sincere about it in any way, shape, or form.
Did you feel
there's no what that said to me is, which is, I believe now what he's saying is actually true. When you hear conservatives talk, you hear about a passion about their country. You hear about it affecting things that affect their kids, their money, their life.
He said it was lies, though. He just said that was a lie.
So I'm gonna say the passion, not about as a lie, because you got to obviously know he's not a conservative man, so he's not going to give all the favor on the conservative side. But I'm gonna say, oops, I didn't mean to do that. But I will say that conservative, when you're on the conservative side, there's more passion because you're looking at it as far as country, whereas the left, it's just like they look at nothing. It's like, because I was there, you really not paying attention to nothing. You got these one or two views. You seen this headline, this clip that you saw online, and
but he said they're telling the truth, but it doesn't sound convincing. That's incorrect. That's completely opposite.
No, I'm gonna say if there is some truth in what they're saying, you wouldn't believe it. You wouldn't, because they have no passion in what they're talking about. It's only these little views, and it's not country. When you look at the left is not focused on country. They're only focused on their one or two views. This having abortion, you know, all these little things. I mean, not little. Let me take that back. Not little things, but they're these just one or two areas. Whereas on the conservative, it's like all of it. You get what I'm saying? So I'm thinking about how one has passion and one just looks foolish when they talk. I'm saying it from that standpoint, not from lies or like that. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Was a good moment for America.
I mean, listen, man, we say nobody is above the law, right? So, I mean, if charges are brought up against somebody and, you know, they go through their due process, they go to court and they're found guilty, you know, I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing, because nobody is, you know, above the law. But what I think is going to happen now is you're going to see a lot of tit for tat.
You know, I still believe that.
Now that, you know, they've made it to where I can totally see them doing political, you know, retaliation in the courts. If I'm not mistaken, Hunter Biden's, the jury selection begins in his trial today.
Whack.
So how do you know Hunter Biden is going to get a fair trial? We just had Governor Josh Shapiro here, and he told us that.
But also, babe, you got to be.
Donald Trump.
We are conservative, but you have to be a listening conservative. You can't be one that hears as soon as you hear something it triggers you. You have to be a listening conservative. I am listening. That's the difference between
what he's saying is. He said nobody is above the law. Well, if that's the case, why hasn't Joe Biden charges been brought up and why hasn't he gone to court yet?
But you're talking peaches and apples. We're talking about if Joe Biden was on the stage for conviction just like Trump was, then he'll have a means of balance on the conversation. But Joe Biden has it brought up on charges, so you can't. So it's not in the discussion. He's only talking about what's going on at hand.
I know that, but the mere fact that he said nobody's above the law is obvious, because if Biden hasn't even been to court on the charges that we know is criminal, then he's above the law.
You have to sit and process the situation of what's current, not what they might do behind the corner. What's they showing the people.
I'm talking about the phrase he said, nobody is above the law. I understand the fact of what he's saying when if they bring up
Trump, Biden on convictions, then it's still the same thing, but they have to bring it. If it's the mainstream, then it's the dual conversation.
Right, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the phrase "nobody is above the law" sounds good, but we already know that's not true. If that's the case, Biden should be in court right now, going through a trial.
But you can't be so hard listening that you fail to hear.
I didn't fail to hear. I know what he said. He's talking about in regards to Hunter Biden and the people that have been selected to be his jury. I mean, I'm not. Okay, but whatever.
I'm talking about Daddy Biden.
So am I.
Daddy Biden, no, not Hunter. Hunter is the son. I'm talking about Daddy Biden.
Yeah, I know
Bringing up Daddy Biden on charges because things that Hunter Biden still won't match up to the president doing.
I'm not talking about
that's just like you saying Don Jr. getting something.
I think you're completely missing what I'm saying here. What I'm saying is, period, nobody is above the law.
Hunter ain't above the law.
I'm not. Bump his son. I'm not talking about the son. I know exactly what he's saying. I'm talking about the phrase, nobody is above the law. So when you say that phrase, that means every citizen of this country should have the right to a fair trial, of course, and should also be prosecuted or have charges brought up against them and them go through the due process like every other citizen. But that's not the case, because if that was so, if nobody is above the law, then the steps that were taken to get Trump with all these charges and him actually go to court and be found guilty, same thing with President Biden. He should have went through the same process. He ought to be on trial right now. Yeah. So that's all I'm saying. Nobody's above the law, baby.
But Biden's going to get his day. Okay. He's going to get his day. It's just not happening right now because they want to stop. Because they want to stop Trump from running.
Nobody's above the law. That's not true.
But Biden's day is going to come, but it's going to be quiet. Watch.
Yeah.
43 times, and in return, Donald Trump sued the state of Pennsylvania, 43 times. So I mean, that's just I don't want to see that in our political system. I don't want to see people just weaponizing the courts and weaponizing the justice system and just going after each other. But I think that's what you're going to see. Trump gets back in the White House.
Yeah, I mean, my issue
I wanted to hear him.
I agree. No one should be above the law, but nor should the law be twisted.
That's
right. Just go after one person.
Yes, that's right. That's correct.
There's no other businessman in New York who would have had what was a state misdemeanor offense at worst upgraded to a felony in the way that Alvin Bragg did, because he's politically motivated in most people's estimation. I think he is. He's a Democrat. He make no bones of it. He wanted to take down Donald Trump. But by escalating a state misdemeanor to a felony in the way that he did, he wasn't actually treating Trump fairly in the way that the law would normally treat someone. So I think in a way, it's not that Trump felt he was above the law. If he was just entitled to the same treatment in US law as every other business guy in New York, he would not have had to face felony charges. That's the reality. It got twisted and morphed up to be something a lot more serious than it actually was. In the end, he had a fling with a porn star 20 years ago, one night stand, which he denies, but I think it's pretty clear he did. And here we are 20 years later, and he's running for president, in 2016, and he wants to hide this information like a lot of famous people do when people make allegations about them, and he pays her off And then because he shovels a bit of paperwork in his business, suddenly he's now facing imprisonment.
Right.
And I just felt.
I mean, we know he's not going to see no prison, but I mean, we can't just, if it's illegal, it's illegal, Pierre. And if you get caught, then you got to, deal with the consequences of those actions. I'm not.
Yeah, but should an American president? Yeah, but so my point is this: if they were taking an American president to court over an illegal drone program that killed thousands of innocent people, if they were doing it over major corruption involving government funds that were being funneled to a president and his family, something of that order, then okay, I get it, right? But to do it to Trump over a payment which at $150,000 was about a fifth or a quarter of the amount that Bill Clinton paid to pay off Paula Jones, who accused him of sexual harassment, and he was president at the time.
How much did Monica Lewinsky get paid in the end? She got paid.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Unlike Trump. And yet Bill Clinton never got dragged through criminal courts. He didn't shuffle a bit of paperwork to pay it. So, yeah, technically it was a crime. I don't think anyone disputes that
they skipped over all them just because they want Trump out of the office.
Adjudicate on this. But my question is, should this ever have come to court? Some of the other cases that Trump's involved with are infinitely more serious. His involvement in January 6th, the documents that were found at Mar-a-Lago and shuffled around, the Georgia phone call and so on. They're all more serious. But to take a president of the United States through the criminal court in election year, depriving him of his right to campaign, all I thought was, whatever happens here, Trump tried stolen election last time wrongly, without any evidence. But this time he's going to have a very good case. If he loses this election by a marginal amount, which is quite likely one of the wins or loses by a marginal amount, he's just going to say this got stolen all over again. By putting me through the courts for 2 months, preventing me from campaigning over a stupid little story involving a fling 20 years ago, they have stopped me winning the election. And he never, actually, I think probably a lot more people agreeing with him than he did last time.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, he was going to say that regardless. I don't know how much sympathy he's going to get, though, because, when you are a powerful person, when you've been a person who's been as wealthy as long as Donald Trump, a lot of everyday people aren't going to feel sorry for you, because there's everyday people who get, jammed up in the justice system and get, sentenced to jail for, lesser crimes than what Trump, just got convicted for. So I don't think nobody's going to feel sorry for him in that case. And then, and if it was a political move, hey, it was a brilliant political move, because I read this morning, or I read over the weekend, that 49% of independents think Trump should drop out, after the convictions. It's easier to say this is a witch hunt, this is a witch hunt, this is a witch hunt, when you haven't been convicted. And that was one of my concerns. I said that last week. I was like, yo, if Donald Trump, before the verdict came in, I was like, yo, if he gets found not guilty on this, it makes everything across the board look like a witch hunt. It makes what's going on in Florida, what's going on in Georgia with the election case. It makes all of that look. It makes the January 6th insurrection stuff. It makes everything look like a witch hunt. If he was found not guilty on these 34 counts, it wouldn't even matter that it was just some Stormy Daniels porn star stuff. It would just make his declaration that all of this is a witch hunt stronger. So the fact that he was convicted, I think it does change the minds of a lot of people.
No.
I think he has this diehard support.
They see through this
Absolutely
foolery.
not. It's the actual opposite.
You look at those independents,
it is.
and they're like 49% of them say they think Trump should.
He's wrong. He's absolute. And so now, the more and more Charlemagne talks, the more and more left leaning he sounds.
Of course.
And he strong on going against Trump, weak on having to talk about Biden.
He should drop out.
And
please, his numbers have actually gone up.
No, he has more and more people like, this how they doing Trump. I'm going definitely for Trump. So he's actually talking, and I really believe that he's only looking at these particular areas because he doesn't want to see all this going on over here about what people really feeling, especially black people. So he's just picking the independent because that's a comfortable talking point versus seeing, because the numbers are going to show in November. It's going to show. It's going to be nasty when you go in that office. What you think the people. You gonna be surprised how many independent people that's gonna go in there and it's gonna go vote for, go in, bubble in that Trump answer. You're gonna be surprised. Gonna be so surprised.
I think it's
drop out after the.
I'm sorry.
No worries. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, I think it's more people who gonna vote for him than even want to say because of maybe the environment that they're in.
Correct. Yeah. Exactly.
Conviction. That was a good political move if it was a political move.
Well, except on the flip side, he's raised nearly $60 million since he was convicted, smashing all records. He's galvanized his base massively. The independents are very important, there's no question. But I'm now going to ask you a question which will fly completely in the face of what I was talking to you earlier about only asking you to represent the black community. I don't mean it like that, but there'll be a lot of black Americans who will share Trump's view about the justice system.
Right here.
Particularly unfair to members of the African American community in America. So is Trump not entitled to say, look, on this occasion, the justice system was deliberately skewed to nail me and was therefore used unfairly?
Yeah, I highly disagree about that narrative that a lot of black people are gravitating towards Trump because Trump is being targeted by the justice system, or now he's been convicted of crimes. I push back on that. I just don't agree with that, because when you look at what happened with Trump, like people, there's a two-tier justice system in America. We know that. We know that there's a way, that black people are treated, and we know that there's a way, white people are treated. But then there's another third tier that we're seeing right now, and there is a way that, privileged white males who used to be president are treated. Because in the New York case, you never saw a mugshot, you never saw Donald Trump in any handcuffs. Piers, you tell me where that happens. Who does that happen to?
Pause it real quick so I forget my point. Okay, I kind of see where he's going. Like, he's saying that he doesn't think that more black people are voting for Trump because of the commonality of how black people have been treated in the legal system and how he's being treated now.
Okay.
Okay, maybe. But even before, I'm going to say, before he was convicted, black people were seeing how he was being treated unfairly.
Yeah.
Or any other person, any other race. Let me just say people.
Yeah.
Because when you look at the South Bronx video, you see all nationalities. Asian, Hispanic, black, white, and possibly other cultures that we didn't see. But they were saying, that people have been saying across the board that because they're seeing him being treated so unfairly when it comes to the justice system, then all the more reason they want to vote and support him.
Yeah.
So
I don't know what black people he been talking to.
But no, it's not just that one thing that black people are starting to. Black people already started seeing this, and they've been paying attention the whole time.
Yeah.
And starting to say, okay, no, wait a minute now. Hold on, this ain't right. No, this ain't right. No, this ain't right. And then you got people to say, wait a minute, they've been saying all these things, and then top this out. They put the icing on the cake. They're like, oh, forget this. We definitely got to support him now.
Exactly.
But not just that one thing particular.
America, there's rich.
Well, we have seen a Trump mugshot
in Georgia, but not in the New York case.
Right.
So for him to be screaming that he's being treated so unfairly, and it's like, not necessarily. 34 counts and you get to walk out of a courtroom,
Well, the 34 counts only look, I would say that, and I'm only playing devil's advocate here, but I would say 34 counts are all on the same thing, right? So it sounded a lot worse than it was. It was all about the same falsifying of business records. I think the unfairness point really is, would any other businessman have had that misdemeanor upgraded to a felony? I don't think they would.
No.
So that's where it looks to me like a Democrat motivated Alvin Bragg, who is a Democrat and was on record saying, I want to take down Trump.
Well, he ran on that. He ran on it.
And we're going to stop right there.
And allegedly, that's not even something that you should have, that the judge even had the power to do.
It was only because they needed something to shut him down. They needed something. I'm telling you, if this wasn't the thing that they tried to use, they would have dug in this man's garbage to find something to pull him down. And then after that, they don't find nothing. Then that's when they go to trying to JFK stuff.
And then my thing is, Trump could have had President Clinton locked up.
Yeah.
She was sitting down there in front of the whole squad, Senate, Congress, all of them, facing all of the charges and the things that she did that were allegedly illegal.
Yeah.
But he said no, and that's in the interview. Go watch it.
Could have pulled up on you, partner.
He said, no, I'm not going to do that. Why would I have a former president's wife
looks horrible
locked up?
Yeah.
So that says something about his character.
Yeah.
So, but that's what I'm saying. It's like that. Those were real charges. You know, that's there. It's out here. You know, go look at it for yourself. I even read it over my phone on an article from a valid, reputable news source to say, okay, so if that crime was a real crime and she didn't go to jail, the stuff that they have ain't even a real crime, and they're trying to make him go to jail. This is how twisted this is, like, which hence more people want to support him because of that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Not just, you know, black people, but of course, and I do agree with him on that. I agree with him on certain things, that there has been a justice system where black people, minorities, have not been treated fairly. We know that.
Yes, of course.
So it's relatable to see a white billionaire go through injustice and say, okay, well, if he is being treated this way with all of the money and power that he's had, and he's a former president, bump all of the other stuff, and he's a president of the U.S. I mean, come on. When you have former presidents' wives who have allegedly been, you know, accused and charged of crimes who didn't serve a day in jail. So please, come on now.
Come on.
All
right. 2024, be more.
Talk less. We love you guys. So we appreciate your support, and subscribe to the channel.
All right.
See you in the next one.